Hello everyone. Welcome to another learning session. Today we're going to discuss about external entities. So the agenda of our discussion today is the overview of external entities, creating the external entities, data structure setting for external entities, and we will be look upon the external entities CRUD operations. Imagine you have data outside of decisions, like result from an API call or any external database or any external table. What if you could treat this external data as if it were a decisions object? Can we do this? Yes, with an external entity, we can do it just that. So we can just go ahead and create the external entity. This will let us to integrate our external data seamlessly. After that, we can just go ahead and check out the configuration folder where we can find the variety of rows such as get, delete, fetch, and save. So for get flow is just for retrieve the external data. Delete is for removing the data. Fetch is access a specific data points. And save is to store new or updated data. So now how can we do this? Just hop into the studio and then we'll see. So we are here in the decision studio. Now let's go ahead and see what can be done. So for creating the external entities in the designer project, we can just go ahead and click on the create data types and integrations. And here into the user defined, we can just go ahead and select external entity. So here we will be just going ahead and creating our data structure. So here I just give the name external entities demo. And here I gave it name. And say ID and first name or person ID. Person ID, first name, last name, date of birth. And here is a type name. I just give external entities. That's fine. And then we are good to go. I just go ahead and save it. So here, if we just refresh our page, here we can just go ahead and see this is our external entity demo. External entities data structure has been created. We got the configuration folder. Under the configuration folder, we got the flows for the same. So for the CRUD operation, we got the flows. So these flows must be configured before the external entity is usable. So what does it mean these flows must be configured? So as this is external entity, so as per our use case, we have to configure these CRUD operations in a way so that whatever the data that we are getting, that can be easily operated with our steps. We will be getting one configuration folder. Under that, we will be getting some flows which is non-configured. We have to configure these flow as per our data need and to make it usable as steps, that CRUD operation steps that will be coming up in the toolbox of our flow designer. So now let's go ahead and discuss some advanced data structure settings while creating the external entities. So we should just go ahead and go for user define external entity, and under the advanced section, we are having certain settings. So start from the hide in search. What is this hide in search? By default, it is unchecked or set to false. So this, by checking this hide in search checkbox, basically this will be hiding the data type from appearing when it is searched. You won't be able to search this particular data type when you're gonna search in the search bar. Next, we are having type name space. So basically, it creates the unique identifier for external entities and is used to generate the SQL table for the external entities with the syntax of namespace underscore type name. Next, we are having category order. So what is this category order? By default, it is blank. So basically, it allows data field categories to be organized in a certain way. So for example, grouping required for the data field together is needed. So we can just go ahead and give the category order for the same. Next, we are having can be base type. By default, it is set to false. This checkbox is unchecked. So what it does, basically it allows and create type to be used as superclass for that particular subclass. Next, we are having include type name in description. This checkbox is by default checked or set to true. So what it does, it enables or disables the visibility of type name space. This type namespace that we do have. So basically, by default, we want it to be visible, but if we just uncheck this box, it will be invisible. Next, we are having is lookup list or not. This checkbox is set to false by default if we just check this enabled. So by enabling this is lookup list checkbox, this enables the data structure to contain a lookup list in it. So here we can just go ahead and define the lookup list category. These were some advanced settings for the data structure external entity. Now we are having certain actions. So first action that we are having, that is default edit category label. By default, the value that is given into the text box is data. So what it does, it is a prompt or a name for the default label when editing a category. Next, we are having show delete action. It's a checkbox. It is by default enabled. So this action gives a delete option to store external entities. When this action is clicked, a user will get a confirmation prompt to confirm this is the selected entity for deletion. Next, we are having show edit action. By default, this checkbox is also enabled. This action gives a user the ability to show and edit action on created entities. Upon clicking this external entity action, a default form will appear. It will contain all the current stored value for the external entity. Next, we do have add category name. If we do have any categories within the external entities, so we can just give the prompt or the names here in this text box. Next, we are having subcategory name. Similarly, if we do have any prompt or any name for subcategories within the external entity, we can just define it here in the text box. So these were some advanced settings and the actions for external entity data structure. Now let's look into external entity CRUD actions. So inside the configuration folder, as we have seen, there are a list of flows for various actions in the designer view. But the external entities capability are limited until these flows are being created. We have to create the action flows for fetch, get, and update. After creating those, we can just proceed for the CRUD operation with the external entity actions. Now let's see how can we do that. Before proceeding towards the CRUD operation of external entities, first of all, we have to go ahead and create one table into the database. For that, we can use, we can just go ahead inside our database, and then we can just this is the SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. And here in my database, I just quickly go ahead and add one table. Okay. So this query will be going ahead and create my table. So if we do have existing table, that's fine. Then if we don't, and then so if we don't, so we can just go ahead and create one and say execute. And it is saying that, okay, fine, my table has been created. I'll just quickly go ahead and add my rows inside this. Okay, here we go with a script of create and inserting the rows. I just go ahead and it's saying, okay, here my table with the rows has been created. Then I'll just quickly go back. So after creating the table into the SSMS, we can just go ahead and into the database integration, we can just go ahead and add the table from here, whatever the connection we need to make from with our SSMS, we can just go ahead and test for our connection, and we can just choose our any of the table name which we wanna choose that external table. Okay. Now after just doing next and using the same, we will be able to get the table database table definition here like we got this. So we can just go ahead and proceed with this existing table. So here we have created one external entity for by the name person. So we shall just go ahead and see its fields. So yeah, we are having the configuration folder. Under the configuration folder, we are having several flows which we have to create and complete in order to make the CRUD operation steps for that particular flow for the external entities. So here I'll go inside the flow, fetch all to create the fetch all CRUD operation or get all step for my external entity. So as soon as I'll go inside the flow designer, I'll be getting the empty flow. So here I'll go ahead and make my flow. So remember that we had that table, the external table that we do have. We have just created some integrations inside the decisions. So we'll take the help out of that particular table. So here we can just go ahead under the integration and database and external entity, and see under external entity database we got the table.person. So that is the same table. So what we need to just create a flow for fetching all the data. So we just get this drag and drop get all from dbo.person. And So with the help of this step, we will be getting all the rows and the information which is inside the table. Now, as we have made the external entity data structure, so it is having certain fields. Let's see what the fields are there. So if we just edit this define data structure, so we are having DOB, last name, first name, personal ID. But here we are getting all the data from that table. But what we need only just these 4 fields. So for mapping that particular data from the output of the table to our this data structure, so that we can just identify which field is giving which information, we will be using the list mapping step. So here, wherever it's done, say failed, here we will be getting data rows and put it as ignore. And see, the personal result that we are getting, we will be just feeding this result here. Personal result and say done. So here we are having this data rows, person result, and this person, and this here. Now this input we have set into the list mapping step. Now we'll go to the show item mapping editor. So here, whatever the input that we are getting, so here we are getting the person result in the form of list of dynamic data row. But here we are having 4 fields that we have to map: the date of birth, first name, last name, and person ID. We'll expand this field one, we'll map it out respectively for the same. Say okay and go back. Okay. Here we need just a date value. Okay. Input scale 1, date, and say date of birth. Yep. And these fields as well, we are not merely just mapping these fields to one field, field 2, field 3, field 4. What we need inside this particular data as an input, as per the data type that we are having, we will do mappings. So I'll just go back into this. So field 2, here we need the string data type. So here we will be just passing the text value. And we say okay. So see, it got mapped up here. Now similarly for field 3, we'll expand. We need to give the text value and say okay. And see, we got the input for the same. Similarly, the person ID also should be the string. So we'll go ahead and field 4 in the text value person ID and say okay. So here we can see all our fields has been mapped to their respective inputs. For field 1, we do have date. For field 2, we do have text value. Similarly for field 3 and for our person ID. So here, whatever the output of the list mapping step, we will be just going ahead and mapping to the end step. Select from flow, say edit, outputs, done, and say save. Once we just go ahead and debug this, it will work for us. See, we got the data for the same. So here in this we have created, with the help of these some steps, we have created one CRUD operation step where we can just, which we can just go ahead and use inside the flow. So let's suppose this is my flow. So I can just go ahead inside my user define external entities person and see we got this step. It is saying get all. So this step is nothing but that the same step which we have just configured for the person. So we'll just go ahead and say debug, and here we will be getting same output that we got there. All the data which is having date of birth, last name, first name, person ID. Okay. So this is the beauty of that creating that flow under the configuration folder. So we just go ahead and create another flow to create a save step. Okay, as soon as we went inside this save flow, we got this blank flow. So here again, we want to just save the data. So we will be checking that the data is already present there or not. But if it is not present, then we'll go ahead and we'll just insert the data and save it. Okay, or update it. So again, we will go to the integration and that database and external entity and our table. So here this time we'll just get our data with the help of ID from this table. So this get by ID from DBO table will be helping us out to get the data with the help of ID. Now here we'll just go ahead and give the inputs for the same. Inside the entity, DBO, say done, DOB and say done, and then entity, first name done, pick entity, last name done, pick entity, person ID done. Now we got the data with the help of ID. We will be getting that. But here, how we will be checking if that particular data is present already in our system or not. So we'll just check with one statement rule or with one statement rule with the object is null. So this step will be working as a rule for us. So here, whatever the value that we are getting at the output as a DBO person result, we'll just pass it inside it. Okay. So once we will be just passing this particular value inside it, is just check whatever we are passing, it is null or not. Okay. So if it is null, then we'll proceed to next steps. If it is not null, it's just go to the end step. Now, what we'll do, we do have just true path left to map it up. So as this is null, if this value is whatever the data that we got by ID from this particular DBO.person, if that is not present in our system, then what we'll do? We'll basically just go ahead and we'll go back into the integrations, database, and external entity and DBO.person. And here we will just go ahead, insert or update the values. Okay. It is just asking for the list of external entities. So here we are, and this the output that we are getting here is just a external entity, but it is having a lot of fields inside that. So what we'll do a build array here, and under that we'll do a build data. See, we got the fields. we'll map this out. So here we can just go ahead inside that, select from flow. Yeah, we can just go ahead inside this, edit db.person result, dob, say done, and select from flow, first name done, select from flow, and last name done, select from flow, db person result name, person ID, say done, and just map it to the end step. Now at the end step, what we are feeding? We are merely just feeding the entity, nothing else. Now we just go ahead. That will be getting saved. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and debug this. Previously, when we have run, that was showing the merged. Now it will be showing once that has been done, right, already. So now it will be just showing at the false path. See, it's showing the false path. Why it's showing the false path? Because whatever the data that we are getting from this table that is already present here, that's why it's not going to the true path. It's saying, okay, the object is not null. That's why I'm just going to the false path. So here on debugging one more time, it's just saying, okay, there is nothing to push inside it. So that's why I'm just putting it at the false path. So this was the flow to make the save step. So we can just go ahead and find this save step. So under we can just go ahead inside the no, we can just go ahead under user define external entities and person, and here we got the save step, and we can just go ahead. Okay, so we will be just putting some combinations out here. So after just putting this combination, we can just go ahead and do some input mapping. And okay. So after doing all the mappings, we'll just go ahead and debug it. And it will be just giving us the data that whatever we have mapped. So next we do have some frequently asked questions regarding the external entities. So first of all, with one question comes up in our mind. So in what kind of use cases where we can use this external entities? So wherever we need to have the user actions for external data, there we require the external entities. So the next question comes up in the mind that what data types can external entity be used for? So it can be used to all the data types that come from external databases to have decisions, entity actions on them. So yeah, that's it from my side for this particular session. Thank you so much. Happy learning.